In general, Japanese people are better than Americans at putting on a happy face when times are tough. That can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. We don't deny being physically ill, and we shouldn't have to pretend to be happy if we are not, especially in difficult times like the past year, as the World Health Organization reported the pandemic has taken a toll on mental health worldwide, making both self-care and mental health services more important than ever. It saddens me to read of the increasing number of suicides in Japan among celebrities and ordinary people. As a Japanese society, we feel like we cannot show our weakness, that we must hold all of it. As a result, people don't see therapy or counseling as an option. We are also afraid of burdening friends and families by showing weakness. Not want to burden others is a quality I greatly admire in Japanese people, but there are other ways to get relief. The problem we now get, of course, is a pandemic, which is the most immediate crisis on our doorsteps. If not the existential crisis that we fight with the climate change. But I wonder how much more difficult it is to get people to make conscious, that to get people to make the necessary commitment when they are like tied up with pandemic. We see them as the two sides of the same coins. Planetary health and nature health is intimately linked to our own health. And the more we destroy the nature world around us and biodiversity on which we depended its infinite variety, and the more we encourage the mass existence of species that we don't always realize that we depended on, because each of us is interconnected with the rest of the nature, that we are making ourselves ever more vulnerable to all sorts of the diseases and the problems. So this pandemic would not be the last one if we are not very careful. So that's why it's critical to heal the natural world as well as ourselves. That is why we cannot ignore it. The world is blue. If you look at it from space, that image that should alone inspire us to think that way. As sea creature, we are as dependent on the oceans as any whale or any coral reef. Take away the ocean and no us. What can you do? Think about what you are eating. Make better choices. Know where the fish come from. I think of the ocean as a blue heart of the planet. Well, how much of your heart do you want to protect? There is no doubt to the world, scientists communities that this is a direct result of human activity, and the effect of climate change will become astronomically worse in the future. Studies show us that those who deny the reality of the climate changes will also find themselves less economically successful. The climate and ecological crisis can unfortunately no longer to be solved within the today's system. According to the current best available science, there is no longer an opinion, that's a fact. We need to keep this in mind as countries, businesses, and investors now rush forward to present their so-called ambitious climate targets and commitment. During the Easter seasons, chocolate eggs and the chocolate lollies are extremely popular, but environmentalists say chocolate lovers should be aware of the environmental damages and occurs when reinforces and created for cocoa growing operations, especially those that are illegal. We cannot indulge in a few good luxury products at the expense of huge swaths of tropical rainforest. Carbon dioxide acts like an invisible blanket around the planet. We are adding CO2 to the air by burning gasolines, coals, and natural gas in our cars, trucks, planes, ships, factories, and power plants. Here is a problem. When sunlight hits the Earth's surface, the surface gets warm. Normally, that heat radiates into space. Heat radiates it, but carbon dioxide absorbs the heat, trapping it in the atmosphere. More carbon dioxide traps more heat. Then, extra heat turns up the volumes of the weather. MottaiNai is a Japanese word inspired by a centuries-old concept rooted in the Buddhist philosophy of respecting the value in all things. The word MottaiNai includes several meanings. One of the meaning is what a waste. For example, we use a MottaiNai when we throw away food that is still edible. It happens more than you think that even in Japan, nearly 6.5 million tons of food are wasted for each year.